The cameras were rolling on another Family Feud taping when 58-year-old Marcus Chen walked onto the stage in his worn work clothes, looking every bit the humble computer repair technician he appeared to be. But when Steve Harvey discovered what Marcus had secretly invented while fixing laptops in his small shop, he would salute a man who had quietly changed the world and created one of the most stunning reveals in television history. It was a Wednesday afternoon at the Family Feud studios in Atlanta. Steve Harvey was working his magic, that navy suit perfectly tailored, his energy filling the room with the warmth that made him America's favorite host. The Chen family from San Francisco was competing against the Williams family from Detroit, and everything was proceeding exactly as planned for another entertaining show. But Marcus Chen wasn't really focused on winning money. He stood quietly at the family podium, his hands showing the wear of someone who spent his days inside computers, keyless from tiny screws, stained from circuit work, but steady from years of precision. His family had encouraged him to come, hoping maybe being on television would help their unsuccessful patriarch feel proud of something for once. During the pre-show introductions, Marcus's humility was immediately apparent. When Steve asked about his work, Marcus had answered simply, "I fix computers. Small shop in Chinatown, nothing fancy." Computer repair, Steve had repeated, sensing there was more depth to this quiet man than met the eye. "That's important work, man. We all need our computers fixed." Marcus had just nodded, uncomfortable with any attention. "It's just technical stuff, not very interesting." But Steve's instincts, honed by decades of reading people, told him this modest man carried himself like someone who understood technology on a level deeper than just repair work. The game progressed normally through the first 3 rounds. The Chen family was doing reasonably well, but Marcus mostly supported from the background, letting his younger relatives handle the answers. He seemed more comfortable observing than performing, the way engineers often preferred working behind the scenes. During the 4th round, when the category was things that changed the world, everything shifted. It was Marcus's turn at the podium, and for the first time all day he stepped forward with quiet confidence that surprised his family. Steve asked the question, "Name an invention that revolutionized how people communicate." Marcus looked directly at Steve, and his answer came without hesitation. "Smartphone technology." "Smartphone technology," Steve repeated, but he was studying Marcus's face carefully. The answer was specific, immediate, and spoken with the certainty of someone who understood the subject intimately. Survey says, the board revealed it was the #1 answer, but Steve didn't move on immediately. Something about Marcus's delivery, his quiet authority on the subject, made him pause. "Marcus," Steve said, walking closer to the Chen family podium, "you said smartphone technology like you know something about it?" Marcus looked up at Steve, and for the first time since the cameras started rolling, there was a hint of something deeper in his eyes. "I've worked with mobile devices, understanding how they work. Just understanding or actually working on them." Steve's expression shifted from entertainer to genuine curiosity. "Development work? Marcus, what kind of development work?" That's when Marcus's family looked at him with surprise. He'd never talked about development work. They thought he just fixed broken screens and replaced keyboards. "I used to work with circuit design," Marcus said, his voice growing stronger. "Component integration, making devices smaller, more efficient." Steve set down his cards completely and approached Marcus directly. "Marcus, that doesn't sound like computer repair. That sounds like engineering." Marcus looked around the studio at all the cameras and lights, clearly wrestling with something he'd kept hidden for years. "I am an engineer," he said quietly. I chose to do repair work instead." "Instead of what?" "Instead of taking credit for things I helped create." Steve's hand moved into his protective gesture, palm forward, fingers extended, as he sensed they were approaching something extraordinary. "Marcus, what did you help create?" That's when Marcus looked directly at Steve and said words that would change everything. "Components that are in every iPhone." Behind the scenes, Steve made a decision that would reveal one of the most extraordinary secrets in television history. Steve stared at Marcus for a long moment, processing what he'd just heard. "Components in every iPhone?" Marcus nodded. looking like he immediately regretted the admission. Marcus, are you telling me you worked for Apple? Not exactly for Apple. I developed technologies that Apple licensed, along with other companies. Steve's voice dropped to that intimate tone that transformed entertainment into revelation. How many technologies? Marcus looked at his family, who were staring at him in complete disbelief, then back at Steve. 15 patents. The studio fell completely silent. Marcus's family looked like they'd been struck by lightning. His daughter Jenny, who had been helping pay his shop's rent, sat down heavily. 15 patents, Steve repeated slowly. Marcus, are you telling me you're an inventor? Marcus shook his head quickly. I'm a computer repair guy. The patent work that was a long time ago. How long ago? The smartphone patents were filed between. Steve looked at the production team, then back at Marcus. Marcus, I need to understand something. You invented technology that's in iPhones and you're fixing computers in a small shop. The patents generated royalties for a while, Marcus explained. But I wanted to work directly with technology with my hands. Fixing things felt more real than inventing them. Anyone can have ideas. Not everyone can make broken things work again. Steve's expression showed he was witnessing something profound. A man who had literally helped create the smartphone revolution but found more satisfaction in repair than recognition. Marcus, Steve said, pulling out his cell phone. I need to make a call, because I have a feeling there are some people who want to thank the man who helped make this possible. The studio watched as Steve dialed a number he had quickly researched during the commercial break. Apple corporate headquarters? Steve said into his phone. This is Steve Harvey from Family Feud. I need to speak with someone about patent holder Marcus Chen. Yes, that Marcus Chen. There was a pause, and then Steve's expression changed completely. Yes, I'll hold, he said, then looked at Marcus. Marcus, they know who you are. Marcus looked terrified. They probably think I'm trying to cause trouble. Dr. Sarah Kim, Steve said into the phone. This is Steve Harvey. I'm here with Marcus Chen and he's telling me he holds 15 patents on iPhone technology. What? Yes, I'll put this on speaker. Steve activated the speaker function, and a woman's voice filled the studio. Mr. Chen? Oh my goodness, is this really Marcus Chen? Marcus stared at the phone in shock. Dr. Kim. Marcus, this is Dr. Sarah Kim, Senior Vice President of Technology Development at Apple. Marcus, we've been trying to reach you for 3 years. Trying to reach me? Why? Marcus, your capacitive touch integration patent isn't just in iPhones, it's fundamental to how touchscreens work across the entire industry. Your work made modern smartphones possible. The studio was riveted. Marcus's family was in complete shock, but Dr. Kim wasn't finished. Marcus, I don't know if you realize this, but you're considered one of the founding fathers of smartphone technology. Your patents have generated over $50 million in licensing fees over the past 15 years. Marcus nearly collapsed. 50 million? And Marcus, we'd like to offer you a position as Senior Innovation Consultant. We need minds like yours working on the next generation of devices. That's when Steve Harvey did something unprecedented in his 40 years of television. Steve looked at Marcus, then at the phone, then at the hundreds of people witnessing this moment, and made a decision that would honor not just Marcus but every innovator who had ever worked without recognition. Dr. Kim, Steve said, I want you to know that Marcus Chen has been fixing broken computers in a small shop in San Francisco's Chinatown, charging $20 for repairs, while his inventions generated $50 million for the industry. Steve hung up the phone and turned to face Marcus directly. Marcus, stand up, Steve said, his voice carrying a gravity that transformed the entertainment space into something sacred. Marcus stood slowly, still processing what had just happened. Steve Harvey, in his perfectly tailored navy suit, in front of hundreds of people and millions of viewers, raised his hand in a formal salute toward Marcus Chen. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve announced, his voice thick with emotion. This is Marcus Chen. While we were all learning to use smartphones, he was inventing the technology that made them possible. While we were taking touchscreens for granted, he was creating the patents that made them work. Steve began removing his navy suit jacket, walking toward Marcus as he spoke. "This jacket has been with me through thousands of shows, but it's never met anyone who deserved it more than a man who changed how 5 billion people communicate." As Steve draped the jacket around Marcus's shoulders, the humble inventor finally broke down. Years of working anonymously, years of his family thinking he was unsuccessful, years of watching the world use technology he'd helped create without anyone knowing his name, all came pouring out. "I never wanted fame," Marcus sobbed. "I just wanted to solve problems, make things work better." Steve pulled Marcus into an embrace. "Marcus, you didn't just solve problems. You solved problems for the entire human race. You made it possible for people to connect across the globe with a touch." When they separated, Steve addressed the studio one more time. "Marcus Chen has 15 patents on technology that every person in this audience uses every day. The phone in your pocket works because of this man's mind. The touch screen you tap works because of this man's innovations." He turned back to Marcus. "Sir, you haven't been fixing computers for 15 years. You've been staying connected to the technology you helped birth. You've been nurturing the next generation of innovators who bring their broken devices to someone who understands them from the ground up." The episode that aired became a viral sensation, shared across every social media platform, ironically, using the very touchscreen technology Marcus had helped invent. The story sparked conversations about unrecognized innovators, the value of technical work, and the importance of the people who build the technologies we depend on. Apple immediately offered Marcus not just a consulting position, but a full research lab in San Francisco where he could continue innovating while mentoring young engineers. Tech giants Google, Samsung, and Microsoft reached out with similar offers. Marcus chose to accept Apple's consulting role but kept his repair shop open 3 days a week. "Young inventors need to see that creation and repair are both sacred," he explains. "You can't truly innovate if you don't understand how things break." The small shop in Chinatown now has a plaque outside, "Home of Marcus Chen, smartphone pioneer." But Marcus still charges $20 for basic repairs and still takes time to explain how devices work to curious customers. Steve Harvey often tells interviewers that Marcus Chen taught him the difference between fame and impact. "Fame is when people know your name," Steve explains. "Impact is when people use your ideas without knowing your name." Marcus Chen had impact. Now, he has both. Sometimes the most revolutionary minds aren't in Silicon Valley boardrooms, they're in neighborhood repair shops, staying close to the technology they helped create, teaching us all that true innovation comes not from seeking credit, but from solving problems that matter.